AI hasn't arrived politely. It kind of crashed the party. For the most part, we like what it offers in terms of productivity and knowledge and when it makes cool pictures, but some of us are a bit concerned about that we're being left behind. And we're not too happy to put our hands up to say when we're actually using it. I quoted Jason Lodge a few episodes back in that every project becomes a group project with AI on the scene, which I agree with, but what does it look like in a true group scenario? If Timmy brings ChatGPT to do his work, is that actually fair? If the chatbots disagree due to the different training and past influences, so if there's multiple students bringing their own version of their chatbot, is this just another version of people bringing their own perspective? The scenario which is played out constantly in a working environment that I've actually been on either side of is that when we agree to do a project, whatever that might be, and we come back for that first check-in and someone goes a little red in the cheeks and goes, well, I asked ChatGPT for this and the response is actually pretty good. On one hand, I think this is far better than what is probably the usual experience in the student environment, one that I've definitely been on the end of, is when they're assigned into different groups and they come back to give their allotted bits, and you have one poor bugger who's done all the work and another one who's missed the brief entirely and someone else who didn't realize there was any work to do. At least the last student can quickly ask Gemini to come up with something, anything, but the psychological impacts need to be considered here. I had a really friendly peer icebreaker recently, and the instruction from the facilitator was to consider using a chatbot of choice to help with the answer. And there was one point where there was a really proud disclosure from someone who said, well, I didn't use AI for my response. And I can't help but feel that I judged the output from that person who didn't use AI as lesser. Whereas the person using their noggin, no doubt, did so from a place of pride. Nick, do you feel the AI shame? Do you inflict it on others?
I am largely immune, right? Like I bracket it with people using things like Grammarly, if we want to go old school Clippy, right? I'm all for an easier life, more productive life for myself. And if these things get me there, especially with things that might otherwise be a bottleneck or pointless time sink, I'm all for it, right? Case in point, as we spoke about earlier, design, right? I can agonize over slide composition for a presentation for hours, so just moving and aligning objects a micron at a time all morning, only to chuck them at lunch, right? Or I let Gamma or MS Designer have a crack, right? Outsource that grunt work, and then I take my pick of the best one. In terms of inflicting it on others, I'm going to obviously have to plead the fifth, though probably allegedly, yes.
This week, Nick shamed me for using Claude in a response.
Yeah.
So confirmed. But I agree. I think if I look at, I also love making my slides very pretty, and things like Gamma have let me got over that perfectionist quality. So +1 for this. Let's look at some data. A recent Turnitin study found that 64% of students are concerned about the use of AI in education. The number is also up from previous years, so the trend is only rising here. Meanwhile, at Harvard, 1 in 3 students express concern that their peers are gaining an unfair advantage by using AI. Chegg's global student study, controversial may they be, shows that 2/3 of students worldwide are already using Gen AI for academic tasks, far more than they're using them for their own personal, organisation, and their career planning tasks. And in the workplace, a study by KPMG and the University of Melbourne found that 57% of employees admit to hiding their use of AI from co-workers or managers. Altogether, these data points paint a really interesting picture. AI hasn't arrived politely. It kind of crashed the party. For the most part, we like what it offers in terms of productivity and knowledge and when it makes cool pictures, but some of us are a bit concerned about that we're being left behind. And we're not too happy to put our hands up to say when we're actually using it. Like the iPhone or social media before it, we're all now working out where this kind of fits in this new social fabric and these social circumstances. What strikes me about this data is that we're seeing parallel adoption and also anxiety. People are using these tools while simultaneously worrying about the fairness and they're feeling a lot of shame about disclosure. Nick, how's your AI honesty? You can't be telling me all those brilliant LinkedIn summaries that you write out. They're Macintosh originals.
No, thank you. That's lovely. I'm pretty open about it, to be honest. It'd be pretty odd for someone in my line of work who didn't jump in with both boots on this kind of thing. So I actually have a bit of cover there. But those and most work I do are definitely collaborations between me and I would say as many as 3 to 4 AI, depending on the task. The originality question is an interesting one as well, and there's an underlying challenge here when you have heavier users of AI, right? Picking out which bit is yours and which the machine or machines can be super challenging, right? So the provenance of a piece. Ethan Mollick, I did very famous, no introduction needed, pitched the frame of centaurs and cyborgs, right? So where centaurs are users who have a clear delineation between AI and human and who does what, while the cyborgs, the line is a lot more blurred. I'm generally in the latter camp. I'm going to guess, is that you as well, or where are you on that?
More so now. Yeah, more than ever before. Back to group work. I'm pro AI in the classroom, and we're pretty pro of it in general on this podcast, and banning it is a fool's errand. I've been really open about this. The genie's out of the bottle, but I believe that transparency offers a far better path forward than any secrecy behind this. But transparency probably requires frameworks that are still being considered in most institutions and actually most social fabrics. One fascinating study called out from Oliver Syke from the University of Arizona. AI disclosure actually erodes trust in the AI user. So this paradox makes strategic transparency design really crucial for successful implementation. So pretty much anytime you do put your hand up and say, oh, I actually got AI to do this, people are like, oh, thanks. But we trust you less now. I also appreciate that as we become more cyborg, it is incredibly difficult to talk where your thought process starts and these AI tools actually end. But as reflection and framing, I think these boundaries need to be considered from the start. On the assessment side, this could be the presentation of extra learning artifacts, and mostly, I think, a revision of rubrics. I'm not sure I love providing AI chat logs as an answer to any of this. This kind of turns marking assessments and an academic endeavor to an auditing activity rather than anything of academic judgment. So any of those behaviors, I can see why it makes sense. It's kind of like showing your work, but some of these chat logs get very long, and what's the point there?
It's a wonderful idea on paper to interrogate, like, I mean, the transcript, if you like. I forget the chat log, as you say. But I mean, in practice, you are just sticking another AI on the AI to see what the human has said to the AI. You know what I mean? And so it just turns into this arms race.
A student AI charter may be utilized. I actually really like this concept. So you get all the students on the same page around how the group will actually use AI. What role will it play? How the group will disclose it in the end for the assessment. A ripping pilot study out of a Spanish university trialed this as a kind of a learning agreement. The students responded really positively. This goes some way to set the expectations, and we're all aware of the benefits of peer accountability. Short term, another solution is AI explicit assessment rubrics. These could be considered as well. Personally, I think these eventually become like asking students to tell how they used a computer or a pen. But my call out is that no one is AI literate. Those that are getting paid way too much, and Sam Altman has probably released a new tool somewhere to make them illiterate again. But that being said, we as a society need to come to terms with these tools, so AI-centric rubrics should be considered. One example from the University of Toronto has adapted the rubric criteria around the kind of research questions. We've seen them. Anyone who's done any academic study knows that these come here. So there's things like reflect on your sources and the type of research methodology, and they've added a distinct AI flavor throughout it. Again, I don't think this is a long-term thing that we see, but right now, as we're coming to terms with this, it is important. British University in Vietnam utilized the AI assessment scale, which has been quite out there quite a lot recently. It's less of a two-lane approach that some of us are familiar with, and more of a freeway with a toll booth and speed limits. There's a 5-level scale that allows educators to define how AI can be used in assessment and learning from level 0, so no AI at all, to level 5, full AI calibration. I'll put the link in the chat to go through the framework. I think it's actually really powerful and should be considered more. At the top end, students can treat AI as a co-pilot throughout their work, while at the strictest level, even brainstorming with AI is banned. The middle ground includes AI-assisted editing or using AI with required commentary and citation. Basically, it's less about if you use AI and more about how transparently and critically you engage with it. In the workplace, be proud about your AI usage. Call out what you used. I used Claude for this particular paragraph, and then I verified the financial data through our internal systems. This works on many fronts because it helps the conversation and kind of breaks down those barriers. But if you're not comfortable saying something out loud, there's actually a good chance that the activity you did perhaps should have been a bit more human-led. Looking at you, people who use it for performance reviews. This isn't binary, and our level of acceptance will change. But more conversation around this is what keeps the AI usage human. Nick, do you have any other solutions you'd add to this?
Not solutions, but I would just sort of echo the importance of this. Like, I mean, there's two words that are being used in terms of the incoming wave of AI: inevitable and ubiquitous, right? We can still shape what emerges from this entire thing. It is coming, it will be ubiquitous, but the form that it takes is not inevitable, right? We do not need to give over the power to the tech bros to shape this entire thing, right? You look at, we discussed this in the top in terms of news, in terms of the right to be forgotten and everything else. We can shape this for higher education. We can shape this so that it remains, that AI usage remains and keeps the human in the loop. So I think proudly, as you say, being honest about your AI usage and exploring it through conversation with others to see how these are used. I think that's important. I was part of a pilot of the
Copilot?
Copilot, exactly.
Or super Copilot, as that were, yeah.
Uber Copilot, whatever it was, like the terming of it. But we sort of came to the conclusion that it would be appropriate to have some sort of a sign off at the bottom of it. This email may have been co-authored or do you know, I may have used AI to write this. And that's kind of an interesting thing, right? So I've reviewed your email, that discussion, like, oh, hey, by the way, just so you know, openly discussing these things. I think testing this socially, as you say, if you don't feel comfortable saying something out loud, try it, right? And then reflect on it, because maybe there is someone who's doing this. Maybe there is a permission sort of structure that we can sort of negotiate and explore together. Or maybe we find out, yeah, you've gone a bit farther and sort of come back from it. So yeah, I think it's a really good conversation. I think it's a very timely conversation, and it speaks to our agency in shaping what emerges here. So I love it.
Nick, I thought you and I should come together and perhaps consider an AI charter. This is a collaboration, of course, between two colleagues, and I think some transparency between us would be great. I'm happy to go first to open the air. So all those little graphics that we use in our YouTube videos, I don't actually hand draw those. I do use AI. I use both ChatGPT and Gemini to prompt them and get those back. Is there anything that you'd like to come clean about?
I am a heavy user of Claude. My name is Nick, and I'm Claudeaholic. Like it is a lot of brain power from me. Yeah, I'm utterly tool agnostic, and so until about 3-4 weeks ago, I was Gemini all day. Gemini 2.5 Pro. I mean, in terms of the amount that I was sort of putting up to that thing, Claude captures the way my brain works better, though. And I find I use that quite a lot. I do use Midjourney, HeyGen. I could keep going. The list is long in terms of this, but for this particular collaboration, yeah, Claude all day for sure.
Good to know, Nick, and I appreciate that. I see you.
The honesty, the share. Thank you. I am home.
So for individual users, practice AI honesty. Starting small, begin disclosing AI use cases in kind of those low stakes situations, and then build comfort with transparency. Start with, I used AI to brainstorm this list in casual settings before moving to more formal contexts, like I used AI to do absolutely everything. This builds your confidence and normalizes the practice for others. I think that's actually really important. A lot about you, but also about others. The goal is not to eliminate AI use. It's about to create environments where people can be really honest about their tools without the shame or competitive disadvantage. Don't just use AI, own it. That's how we keep the group project human. Well, listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please leave us a review, share around within your network, and most of all, hit subscribe with a little bell item if you're watching on YouTube and whatever platform you are at. We are on all your favorite podcast platforms, and those who would love to see our faces, you can also find us on YouTube. We'd love to tell you what's on next week's episode, but it's a world that moves way too fast, so you'll just have to tune in. Until then, stay curious, stay intelligent, and stay the human in the loop.